Welcome to Fresh to Frozen and Back. I'm your host, Diane Hendricks. This show is going to make your life easier. You're going to learn how to prepare delicious and healthy meals to serve to your family and how to freeze the leftovers correctly and then bring them back to life and serve them again. Who could ask for more than that? Today's show is all about breakfast. I have 3 amazing recipes that you and your family are going to love. We're starting off with my Almond Joy Power Bars. I've been a certified personal trainer for 30 years now. And I used to own a gym, an aerobic and personal training studio, and my clients could not get enough of these. You can use the almonds and the coconut that I'm going to show you, or you can add fruit and nuts or any ingredients that you like. And here's how simple it is. Okay, this is like baking muffins. You have wet ingredients, you have dry ingredients, you mix them together, you put them in a pan, you bake them, and you're done. So let's start with the dry ingredients. We're going to use oats. You can use rolled oats, which work really, really well for this. Then you're going to use your favorite unsweetened cereal. Here I have shredded wheat, mini shredded wheat. You can crumble them up a little bit if you'd like with your hands. You can put them in a zip top bag and smash them with a mallet first, or you can leave them whole. I kind of like a combination of the whole ones as well as a little bit of crumbles, so it really makes it nice. Then we're gonna add some almonds. I have sliced almonds. I think they work the best. You can use slivered almonds, but the sliced ones work a little bit better. If you don't like almonds, you don't have to add almonds. You can use peanuts, you can use hazelnuts, anything that you like. Unsweetened shredded coconut. You don't want that sweet stuff that's in the packet that has all that added sugar. This is unsweetened. And then we're gonna add some semi-sweet cacao chips, or you can use chocolate chips if you want, peanut butter chips, whatever you like. Some cinnamon. And that's the end of your dry ingredients. So we're just gonna mix all of those together. And the chocolate gives it like a little hit of sweetness, and it really does taste like an Almond Joy. So good. Okay, so we have that all mixed together. We're gonna mix again once we do the wet ingredients. All right, so now on to the wet ingredients. Got some eggs. You can use egg whites if you'd like. Almond milk. I love almond milk. It's just a stickler for almond milk. I'm gonna reserve a little bit in case we need to add a little bit more. Orange juice, freshly squeezed orange juice, gonna give a nice sweetness to this as well as some vitamin C. I'm a registered dietitian as well, so the combination of registered dietitian, chef, certified personal trainer, it's like a trifecta. Then we have almond butter, all natural almond butter. You don't want the stuff, if it says sugar on it, you don't want it. It should be 1 or 2 ingredients. It would be almonds or almonds and salt. I prefer just the almonds. Then we have honey, pure honey, just a little hit that's gonna give it a nice little sweetness. And we have vanilla extract and almond extract. You can use vanilla and or almond. And that's all of the wet ingredients. Now I'm using an immersion blender because this works really, really well. If you don't have one of these, it's a really handy tool in the kitchen. So watch this. Now it can get kind of messy. The key is to keep the ingredients underneath the end of the blender. And while you're doing that, you can see that it splashed a little bit. The key is to keep the entire blender submerged in the wet ingredients so it doesn't splash all over the place. And the honey's a little thick, so you have to move it around to get the honey. Okay, then it's as simple as this. You're gonna take your dry ingredients, you're gonna add the wet ingredients, or you can do it vice versa, but this bowl is bigger, so you want the bigger bowl to add the other ingredients to. Then you're just gonna stir it up. And take a second, because you wanna get it all wet. You wanna get it all nice and wet. So you can see, as I'm stirring this in, you can see that everything's starting to get wet. You don't want it totally soaked, but you don't want any dry ingredients where you can see them, that they're completely dry and haven't been touched by any of the liquid. Like I said before, you can use, I make fruit and nut ones. I make ones called peanut butter cup with natural peanut butter and cocoa chips. So good. Okay, and I think this is wet. Well, I'm gonna add just one little hit more of almond milk. Again, you can use cashew milk, there's rice milk, there's so many different types of options for that. Okay, I think this is good. Now here's where we're gonna get a little bit messy, but that's fun. Make sure your hands are nice and clean. So you're gonna line a baking sheet with parchment paper, and then you're just gonna dump the mixture onto the parchment paper. Get it all out. And then, I've got clean hands, you're gonna spread it out and then push down. And the eggs are gonna help to bind it. And here's a little trick. You're gonna lay another piece of parchment paper on top, and then you're gonna take another baking sheet and put it on top of this. And then I'm short, so I have to jump up to do this. So you're gonna push down on it. And that's gonna help flatten it out and incorporate everything together. Okay, and then all you're gonna do is you're gonna take this, you're gonna bake it in the oven at 325 for about 20 to 25 minutes until it starts to get nice and brown. And then they're all tight, and then you just cut them into squares and put them in the freezer. It's super simple, and you're gonna love it. Okay, so like I said, you stick that in the oven, and now I'm gonna show you what they look like when they're frozen. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna slice them when it's done, and then you're gonna lay them on a baking sheet. After you slice them, you're gonna lay the individual slices, just like this, the individual bars, on a baking sheet, and then you're gonna freeze them until they're nice and solid. And then once they're solid, you take them out of the freezer, and then you put them in a Ziploc bag lined with each layer of parchment paper. And it only takes about, I don't know, 5 minutes for these to defrost. So these are a super delicious grab and go snack, or quick breakfast, or easy morning meal with 2 of those. So we're done with this recipe, and coming up next, a veggie egg omelet muffins that I make in muffin tins. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Okay, so now we're gonna make veggie omelet muffins. You're gonna be using muffin tins, which you can spray with an olive oil spray, or if you don't have that, you can just dip a clean paper towel into olive oil and then run through each of the wells very quickly and easily. These are non-stick anyway, but I always like to add a little bit of oil, healthy oil, to keep it from sticking, okay? So we have this prepared tin, and now we're just gonna whisk all the ingredients together. We have eggs and egg whites. You cut back on the calories by using a combination of whole eggs and egg whites. And the whole egg yolks that I'm keeping off to the side, I like to drop into a simmering pot of water for just a minute or 2, and then I give them to my dogs as a treat, and they absolutely love it, and it's good for their coats as well. We're gonna add some cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is a great alternative to just milk, and it really just gives it a nice texture. And then any of your favorite crumbled cheeses. I have feta here. I like feta. And we're just gonna whisk that all together. I think I'm gonna add a hit of pepper to that too. We don't need any salt because there's salt in the cheese. Okay, so we're gonna whisk that all up. So you don't want to use a blender or an immersion blender with this because it'll blend up the cottage cheese and the feta, and I like the chunks of that. Okay, so we're gonna set that aside, and you can even add a little bit of shredded cheese. We're gonna add a little bit at the end, but that's a combination of Monterey Jack and cheddar. I like it. Okay, so we have a pan that's heated up, And I'm going to kick up the heat just a little bit. And again, just a teeny tiny bit of oil. So that's getting nice and liquid. You want it to cover the whole base of the pan so that all of the vegetables get hit with the oil. Then we're going to start with some onion. Now you can use whatever vegetables you like. I mean, I like broccoli in this. You can use spinach. I've got peppers, mushrooms, anything that you like. There's that sizzle. So we have onion, peppers. I'm using red bell pepper. A little bit of mushrooms. I love mushrooms. And you can use wild mushrooms in this, like shiitakes and oysters and things like that to add another flavor with the mushrooms. And here we have some chopped baby spinach. And we're gonna cook that up. The more color you have on your plate, the more nutrition you're gonna have. So have a wide variety, all the colors of the rainbow in your food. So this looks absolutely great. So let's cook this up. All right, so this is done. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna divide these vegetables among the muffin tins. Okay, so we're just gonna put a little bit of each of these vegetables into each one of the tins. And do just a little bit to start so you don't run out. And if you have leftover, if you have extra, you can always go back and add more, but if you run out, you're gonna have to start picking out of each one into the other one, so we don't wanna do that. It's okay if you make a little mess because we're gonna clean it up before we bake it. Okay, so see how I have a little bit extra? So I'll just kind of mash them down and go through the ones that don't have enough. And we're gonna give it a little tap. Move them over. My hands are clean. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the egg mixture to each of the tins. Now the egg itself is gonna pour out first, so just do a little bit first. And then at the end you can go back. Some of the cheese is gonna hang at the bottom. And now we're gonna push some of this cheese in here. See how the cheese kind of pops out? You wanna make sure they're even. I don't wanna get one that doesn't have any cheese on it. Okay. And you can use, like I said, feta, cheddar, you can use mozzarella, you can use grana padano, you can use anything that you like. And then just, here we go, all the little chunkies. So you're gonna take this and you're gonna bake this at 350 for about 10 minutes, and it's gonna start to get nice and firm, tender, and then you can top it with a little bit of extra cheese and then put it back in the oven for about 10 minutes. And then what you're gonna do with any that you have left over is you pop them out of the tins and put them on a baking sheet, just like we did with the Power Bars. You're gonna put these individually on a baking sheet and then stick them in the freezer for about, I would say about 20 minutes until they're solid, rock solid, and then you're just gonna put them in Ziploc bags, label them with the date, what they are, and stick them back in the freezer, and then you have a grab and go. You can stick this on an English muffin or piece of toast or just eat it as it is. It's really good. When we come back, I'm gonna show you some French toast like you never had before. Who doesn't like French toast? It's a combination of eggs and bread and a little cinnamon and vanilla and just pure deliciousness. I'm gonna show you my French toast that has a little bit of a twist with some orange zest in it. And here's all you do. You take your eggs. I've got eggs and egg whites. Like I said before, I take those egg yolks and drop them in a little boiling water and give them to the dogs. We've got orange juice, fresh squeezed orange juice, some vanilla extract, pure vanilla extract. You don't want to use any of that imitation stuff. You want pure vanilla extract. When it comes to ingredients, when you use a higher quality ingredient, you can use less. So you're better off using a higher quality ingredient, not using as much, and getting more nutrition and a healthier dish. Almond milk, love it. Unsweetened, you don't want to use the vanilla one, you want to use the unsweetened. And some cinnamon. My boys love this. I mean, this is one of the things that they're like, Mom, can you make me that French toast that you make? And it's really good, and you're gonna love it too. So we're gonna mix this all together. Get all these flavors incorporated into the eggs, and then we're gonna add some orange zest. Okay, now we're gonna add a little bit of orange zest. And we're using a microplane, which is super easy. And what you're gonna do is you only want the very outside of the orange. So you have to wash your orange well. And the further you get into the orange, you're gonna get to the pith, which is gonna be a little bitter. So you have to kind of move it around as you go along. So you can see that I've already gotten a little piece here. So the more you move around to where you haven't already hit it. And the funny thing with one of these microplanes is that the orange stays on the bottom. So you're looking in the bowl saying nothing's in there. That's because most of it's here. So when I tap this on the bowl, all of that zest is going to go into the bowl. So see all that fall down there? Okay, so then we just do a quick stir. And then what we're going to do is we are going to pour that into a baking dish or even like a sheet pan. And then we're gonna add bread. I mean, you can use any type of bread. My family typically loves challah bread with French toast. You can also use Italian bread or French bread, or here you just have like a white Italian bread. So you wanna set it there and let it kind of soak on that one side. And while that's soaking, before I flip it over, I'm gonna start the pan. So we're gonna heat our pan up, get it kind of really hot, not too hot, so I have it on like a medium high. And then we're gonna add just a little hit of oil, olive oil. I use very, very, very little butter in my cooking, so you'll notice that I really don't use butter very often. Once in a while, I like to drop a little bit into soup, makes it really good, but I typically like to use a high quality oil. Okay, so we're gonna let that get liquid. Okay, so the oil is getting hot, starting to get more liquid and spread throughout the pan. There's nothing wrong with taking your spatula and spreading the oil out. So we got it nicely spread out. And for this particular dish, you really want to get the pan nice and hot so that you kind of sizzle. So while that's heating up, let's flip this over. So you're just going to take your bread and flip it. You don't want to puncture it because you want it to stay nice and firm, but you see how all that bread, all that mixture soaked right into it? So good. And I'm gonna show you how to freeze it, which is super simple, just like the other two dishes that we made in this episode. You're gonna line them on the baking sheets, just like we did before. Once they're cooked, line them on the baking sheets, let them get nice and frozen, and then take them out and put them in a Ziploc bag that's labeled. Okay, so we're gonna take this, you'll hear it. I hear that sizzle. So I'm gonna put 2 of these in there. Now, if you know you're gonna want that like later on in the day, you can leave this in here in the refrigerator and then it'll be really soaked in and you can cook this later on. Otherwise, for a quick and grab and go meal, cook them all up and then do the freezing like we talked about before. So this is gonna cook right now and then we're gonna wait about 2 to 3 minutes and then we're gonna flip it. Okay. Doesn't this look pretty? It's such an easy presentation. You can add fresh berries to the top. If you don't want a sugary syrup, you can take strawberries and blueberries and just puree them in the blender and then just heat them up real quick in a pan for a fresh berry syrup. Or you can just eat it on its own because there's so many flavors going on in here. I can taste that orange. It's citrusy and fresh and really delicious. Thanks for watching. Follow me on social media at Diane Hendricks. Visit my website, dianehendricks.com, and share this episode if you love it with all of your friends.